Another method for implementing responsive images in your web designs is by using the HTML5 picture element. The picture element is a new HTML5 tag, fairly recent, and we can use it to add images into our pages. So I'm just going to add a picture element to my HTML here. So it's just a little bit more flexible. It's like a container for our image tag. First of all, we have to actually include an image tag inside, inside our picture tag with a source. And actually, I might just quickly speed that up by going and grabbing an asset from Unsplash. So I'm here and I'll grab copy the image tag and the URL. And pop that inside our picture tag, and hopefully, we'll get an image rendering there, which is cool. This is kind of as we would expect. But what we can do is also add a couple of other elements inside the picture tag that will insert different images or point to different URLs depending on a source that we set. So first thing I want to do, and this might seem like it's a lot of extra code, and in one sense it is, but later down the track in much more complicated websites, this could actually be a more flexible approach. Anyway, let me run through it. We need to add a couple of source elements here, and with the source set attribute set to the URL of the image that we want. And for the first URL here, it's going to be the same as our original image. Okay, now the reason why we have to add that twice is that some older browsers don't support the picture element. So if that is the case, we want to be able to fall back to this element here. But in a newer browser, it's going to look for this source set inside the picture element. Okay, so that's our first image, all right? And what we want to happen is that when the browser width gets to a certain increment, we want to swap to another image. So we're going to add another source element here with a different source set attribute. Oops. Set that to a new image URL. But we're also going to add kind of like a media query here, but it's a media element, and that's going to check for a condition written the same way as a media query would be. So I'm going to use the min width like I usually do. We might set that to 400 pixels. Like so. Now let's go back and we'll grab another image to insert in there. We're going to just copy we only need the URL. Go back over here and pop it in between those quote marks, like so. Alright, and you can see because our browser width was bigger than 400 pixels, it's actually loaded that picture in. So smaller than 400 pixels, it's going to load in this image here. Larger than 400 pixels, it's going to load in this image here. So just one little mistake there. It was still working, but I had one little bracket missing. Let me break up these elements so that we can see a little bit better what's going on here. Okay, so the element itself is a picture element, and inside there we've got an image with an image source going to an image URL, and that is there as a fallback. Under normal circumstances, the picture image is going to load in this source attribute, which is this URL. But if the browser checks and finds that the minimum width is above 400 pixels, it's going to load in this image here. So that's another way that we can be flexible with the way our images are displayed in our web designs.